understanding the best process to build something that will actually sell. And it all comes from understanding who you're trying to sell to in the first place, because you'll never have to work hard selling a solution to somebody that's already looking for it. But if you create a solution and then you go out and try and find the people to sell it to, you're going to have an uphill battle.
Welcome to the podcast.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Nice. So let's just jump straight in. I'm really, really excited for this. You do so much like online stuff. You've been called an alchemist of business, and basically your whole thing is turning people's skills and expertise and helping them monetize them. Right. So there's a lot to get into. You do 1,000 things. Tell us, a little bit about yourself.
So I spent more than 20 years in corporate life and never, ever thought that I would be anything like an entrepreneur or running my own business or doing anything like that until probably around about the last couple of years. And then I took some training. I'd already been trained up internally in the organization I was in as a trainer and thought, actually, I really like this. And I kind of reached the point in my career, which was, is that it? Is that all there is? Do I really want to be here for the next however many, 20, 25 years or however long they extend the retirement date? And so I started looking more and more into running my own business, took the plunge at the end of 2014, and then very quickly got into learning all about online courses and websites, principally to do my own stuff, to look at my own stuff, get all that set up and sorted. But it wasn't long before I had people in the communities that I was in online saying, does anybody know anything about this online course stuff? And actually, I know a little bit about it. Shall I do a webinar? So I did that, and I'd put on a few other webinars and a few other bits and pieces. And then it just became a bigger and bigger part of my business until I decided to sack off all the other stuff I was doing and just concentrate on helping other subject matter experts to digitize what they're doing and make it a viable part of their business model.
I love it. So you've got a really interesting business model, and I think we'll go into this later. You've got like a multi-step product suite. So tell me around kind of the business right now. What are the different products and services you're selling? What's the makeup?
Sure. Yeah, so it's all under the umbrella heading of the Get That Gang. And it started with Get That Course Online. And that came just from looking for a name that kind of did what it said on the tin.
Genius.
And at the time
name.
I was...
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, the reason I like it as well is that my name is Ginette Tessier, so it's GT Co as well. So it kind of, it fits.
Yeah, see, AI, ChatGPT wouldn't have been able to come up with that. That's a human copyright. Right. Yeah. Okay. So tell us about Get
That Course Online. So that was really the one that kicked it all off, and swiftly followed by Get That Website online. And then, of course, you can go wherever you need to with all of this. So I brought it under the umbrella of the Get That Gang, just to make sure that all of the Get That's were part of what I was doing. And it really just stemmed organically from the conversations that I was having with clients and potential clients. So they would come to me to talk about online courses, and we pretty soon end up talking about websites, because we need to talk about hosting and where they're going to put their courses. If they came to me to talk about websites, I happened to mention online courses, and they were, actually, I'm interested in that as well. And then some of them needed help establishing their brand. So we've got Get That Brand Online. Courses naturally leads into video production. So we've got Get That Video Online. We've also got...
You're getting that. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, totally. And I help them with the strategic stuff as well.
That's awesome. So are all of these Get products or suites, are these like online courses that you're selling, or is it coaching kind of?
No, they're different things. So Get That Course Online is the one that teaches them how to create online courses out of the material that they've got. And within that, I have the book. I've got the course. I've got an in-person boot camp that I run, and I do in-person mentoring. With Get That Website Online, I'm a hosting reseller, so I can help people with domain names, with hosting, with setting their website up and getting that up and running, making sure it's working. With Get That Video, I can do editing services for people. I've also got Get That Book, so I can help people to publish a book like I've done, and how they can use that.
So how are you basically just like solving this problem, right? You have like 10 companies, so I'm curious how you started. Do you just solve a problem for yourself, where it's like, oh, I want to launch a book, I figure out how to do it, and then you sell, either that service or that information to other people?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it wasn't how I'd intended to start out, but that's how it's happened. I have an insatiable thirst for knowledge myself anyway, and I'm absolutely not against outsourcing anything, but I want to know how to do something before I pay somebody else to do it, so that I know what I'm paying for.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't get stuck kind of $10,000 with down the drain with nothing. So you have like a ton of digital products, and overall, how many digital products do you have, and all services that you own right now, would you say?
Oh, man. If I broke them all down into the individual parts, then I would say probably you're looking at a couple of dozen. I've got some legacy stuff. I've got some legacy courses that if people need it. So, for example, I've got a course which is confidence on camera, which is principally designed to help people get used to being on camera, because video is such an important part. And a lot of the people that I work with haven't grown up with this sort of technology. When I was first starting out in my first corporate role, we only just started having computers and email. So the concept of being on a video and
you're speaking to the choir right now. Maybe I can get some discount codes for myself after the podcast. As you can see, wow, yeah. So dozens. Do you reckon like 30, 40 courses that you own and have launched?
Yeah, there or thereabouts. I mean, individual bits and pieces and ways that people can work with me. A lot of the stuff is, like I say, it's legacy. So I'm not actively selling that stuff, but I have it in the tank in case I'm chatting with a client that needs that. And I would much rather have something and be able to say, oh, here's the thing, do that, and then come back to me and we'll move on. So a lot of it is about being able to provide a speed of response to the people I'm working with as well.
And these courses that you have in the bank that you're giving to them, are they like available for public purchase, or are they just kind of tucked away? You said you're not actively selling.
They're tucked away mainly.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so some of them I use as bonuses for other things. And some of them, if I'm working one-to-one with a client, for example, and it's pretty obvious to me that they need some help, for example, getting confident on camera, then I might, give them access to the course, that kind of thing. But I don't tend to have everything available all at once, just purely because people get overwhelmed. And usually the sort of people that I work with come to me with a specific problem, and more often than not, it's not what they think it is. But if I come at them immediately with here's 30 things that you could choose from, they're just not going to choose anything. Too much choice is a bad thing.
Okay.
So it's really important to just provide those entry level points for people, and then we expand.
Yeah.
From there.
Okay. I want to go deep on this kind of like strategy in acquisition. But if you have like 40 courses in the bank and you have people coming to you, this must be like a great opportunity for you to cross sell, upsell, down to really improve that LTV. Like, tell me, a little bit about how you guys do that.
Sure. So, I mean, I'm working with somebody at the moment, for example, who I've been working with for a couple of 3 years, something like that. And we've mainly done website and online course stuff together, although this particular client is yet to actually produce their first course. Now, what they've had from me is mentoring on this. They've had business strategy meetings. We've developed a few websites together. They've had the training to create online courses, and they've got a copy of the book. I know they've got a copy of the book book because they've written me a review for it. But they just haven't managed to get themselves into the place where they have created an online course. And as part of the business strategy and bits and pieces that we've been talking about, what I'm now working on with them is branding for a new arm of their business, which means that they can also produce a new book, which is going to become a lead magnet, which they'll turn into an online course. They're coming on my boot camp in October. So none of it was at the very beginning of our relationship. I was thinking, right, how many different things can I sell this person? It's what's the right thing for them at the right time.
You're just adding
as
value.
the relationship is grown organically.
So I'm curious, if someone's potentially either running an agency or they're a coach, how would you think about for them picking a product to sell, right? If that makes sense, to kind of build into their suite. Maybe they have high ticket stuff or a book on the front end. What is the first course that they should be launching?
So that's a really interesting question because I don't tend to do a lot of cold outreach. I have an awful lot of referrals come to me, and I have an awful lot of people who pick up on stuff that I've put out online somewhere at some point. And even videos from 7 years ago, like the one that you referenced, which I had to look up to think, what was I talking about in that? That's how people tend to get in touch with me, or they're referred by somebody else in their network. So they usually end up coming to me with a specific question, as opposed to me approaching them and going, hey, I've got a really great idea for your business. I'm sure I could do that, but so far I haven't needed to.
And what about for other people who, don't have an audience, but people are coming to them, asking them questions with problems because of their expertise? When do you have a course idea, number one, and how do you kind of pick which problem to solve?
Sure. So I think all of that comes from really building a proper connection with the person that I'm talking to, and then working out, who are the people that they are talking to? What are the problems that have been identified? And then we start thinking about where they're at in their business and what would be appropriate for them. So, for example, if I was talking to a new client and they said to me, look, I've got people who've got these 3 different issues and I want to create an online course to solve these 3 different issues. The first thing that I would look at is whether or not they've got any experience of creating online courses anyway. And if they haven't, then I would ask them more questions to just hone it down to one of those issues, because I'm a huge fan of saying your very first online course is going to be your worst. Not because you're terrible at what you do, and not because I can't teach you how to make something great, but because you've never done it before. So your first one is almost a bit like your training wheels.
The MVP.
So you need to create one
Nice.
to actually learn the process. And then, so we don't want to pick anything too massive, because what I see with a lot of newbie or wannabe online course creators is they pick a huge subject because they want to create their signature course. And then they get so lost in the weeds of it that they end up never finishing, because it's a massive project as well as learning.
I know. I totally get that. That's really smart. So how do you, when you're launching an online course, how do you pick the best problem to solve? If there's multiple, and maybe give an example of a course that, that you launched or that someone else launched, how you kind of identified that niche, that niche problem.
Totally. So it all comes from the people that you're talking to. So one of the other things that I help people with is understanding the best process to build something that will actually sell. And it all comes from understanding who you're trying to sell to in the first place, because you'll never have to work hard selling a solution to somebody that's already looking for it. But if you create a solution and then you go out and try and find the people to sell it to, you're going to have an uphill battle, right? So talk to the people who are your target audience, understand what the issues are for them. And if there is something topical, then that's what you can do if you've got the quick enough turnaround. So twice I have done a creator course in a day where I have allowed people for payment to watch me create an online course from scratch in one day. And I let them pick the topic. Right. So the first session in the morning is me saying, right, here are 4 possible topics. Which one do you want? And they pick it. And then they join me. They watch me as I go through the process of creating the course. So the last time I did that was on gamification.
Wow. So did you end up launching that course?
Yeah.
So you're getting paid to build it. Okay. I need to steal this. I need to steal this idea from you. This is incredible. That is, there is something cool. Like sometimes when I launch internal courses, we did a chat GPT course building course that I did. And I was actually building the course on the sales page and the ads and running the ads for it in the course. It was like, two birds with one stone. It's very meta, but what you did is way cooler. So that's awesome. Okay. So I'm curious. Let's keep going in. So when, let's say there's a target market, right? A customer that you're trying to solve a specific problem for. What questions are you asking them, or what research are you doing to try and identify where the problems are? What idea or approach you should take? All that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So if it's for an online course, one thing I'm absolutely not doing is saying, what do you want an online course on? Because that's not how people think, right? People think in terms of their problems, and we are all, whether we like it or not, very self-centered. So as soon as somebody's talking about something, it's kind of, okay, yeah, but what's in it for me? How am I going to get this thing off my to-do list? Or how am I going to solve the problem I've got? So actually, the questions I'm asking are designed to get them to open up and just talk to me more about what's going on for them at the moment. What's the biggest hassle? What's the thing that if I could wave a magic wand and take it away, you'd absolutely pay me whatever I wanted for it? Those are the sorts of things that I'm trying to get to the bottom of. I'm not asking people what they would want in an online course. I'm not asking them how they'd like to get that problem solved. I'm just asking them what the problem is they've got. And then I can work out later whether or not there's something that can be produced in an online course that will solve that.
And when you're looking for the problem, I'm curious, there's what's the difference between like a deep kind of like a emotional problem versus like a surface level? Okay, my Facebook ads aren't profitable, surface problem. Deeper problem is, oh my God, my business may go under next month. I have the fear of being an embarrassment, right? I'm not saying, we're not going to say that in marketing, but it's like, do you get all of it? Yeah, totally. Yeah. Talk to me. Yeah.
Completely. So, I mean, the first thing to say is you can solve both of those problems. It doesn't have to be a binary one or the other solution. But what you're thinking about when you are creating online courses is the level of transformation that you want to offer. So a surface level problem is a small transformation. So how do I make my Facebook ads profitable is going to probably be along the lines of try this, right? Test, reiterate, test, reiterate. So, that's a pretty simple transformation to offer somebody. So your differentiating perspective on that is likely to be the way in which
a strategy or a tactic or a mechanism. Yeah. Totally. Interesting. Okay.
Totally. For deeper transformations, particularly when it comes to the more psychological, emotional ones, then you're really having to think long and hard about how likely are people to A, fess up that this is something, or B, know that that's an issue for them in the first place. So I'll give you for instance.
Yeah.
I do a lot of work with people on pricing for their online courses because there is absolutely no formula for this thing. People pluck a price out of thin air. Everybody does, right? You, me, everybody. There is no formula for it. I have a lot of fun with it sometimes because people say, well, how do you price your course? I say, well, take the price of toast, multiply it by orange, and then divide it by the number of hairs on your head. That is a good price as any for your online course. There's no formula, right?
Yeah.
But when people are looking for something, when people are trying to get to a price for their online course, very often what they've got are their own limiting beliefs around pricing and about money and around how much people are prepared to pay for things. What it is a money mindset issue, right? And that's what they need help with, is getting their money mindset online so that they feel comfortable valuing themselves appropriately and therefore pricing their stuff appropriately.
Interesting.
So, once you've identified what the issue is, you've got to work out how prepared are you to go deep with trying to solve that issue. How prepared are you to work hard at helping people identify it's something they need help with?
Yes. Interesting.
So, if it's money mindset, I can talk to people through some of that stuff. But there are actually people out there who are specialists in helping with money mindset. So if I feel that it's more appropriate for them, I might refer them on to those people and then come back to me when you've got that bit sorted and we'll carry on. Or if it's not too deep an issue, then I can coach them through the top line stuff for sure, the obvious, easy stuff.
Yeah. And even and on that point, you're talking about the unique way of doing things, where it's like, oh, my unique Facebook ad strategy works better because da 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 da.
Yeah.
When course creators come to us, a lot of them have like skepticism around, competition, right? So first of all,
Yeah.
does competition matter? If someone's, already killing it in your space doing something similar, do you need to differentiate? How do you differentiate? How do you go into approaching, saturated online course markets when you launch?
Sure. So first of all, competition absolutely doesn't matter. In fact, competition is good because it proves to you that there is a market in the first place, right? If there's no competition for what you're trying to offer anywhere, then you've got to ask yourself, do people really want what I'm trying to offer? So that's the first thing to say. The second thing is, yeah, absolutely. I work with people who have a healthy level of skepticism as well. Why would people pay for this stuff? They can find it for free on YouTube. Well, yeah, they can. But what you're speaking to is for me, 7 reasons why people buy anything, right? So value bomb about to come in. There are 7 reasons why you or I buy anything, okay? It's to make money, to save time, to save effort, to get a physical health improvement, a mental health improvement, or to get a status uplift, to be a bit kind of, I'm better than you are, right? Anything you buy is going to fall into at least one of those 7 categories. Don't care if it's a loaf of bread down the supermarket or going out and getting another car. It's going to fall into one of those 7 categories. And that's what you have to identify, and that's what you have to speak to. So when people say, oh, but people can get all this stuff on YouTube, yeah, but they're spending time and effort doing that. Your online course can save them time, can save them effort. You've got 2 of the 7 right there.
Yeah, no. Totally. Even in like VSLs, because we do a lot of market research, and when we build funnels, it's like there is that aspect where pretty much everything is free on YouTube. Like obviously the instructor or the course builder will have like a unique aspect to it, but it is the fact that it's condensed. You don't know who you're getting advice from YouTube. You have to go to 14 different videos in a blog post, or in 6 minutes I'll give it all to you with scripts and templates. I'm just curious, across your 40 courses and programs, how many students would you say have gone through them?
Oh God, hundreds. So I mean, it's one of those things where there are people who have actively enrolled in those sorts of things and have gone through those things. I also have repeat offenders, so people that like to go through things more than once. I have people that do a course of mentoring with me and then come back and do more mentoring. Then there are people that have seen my stuff either on YouTube or through other talks that I've done in other groups and that kind of thing. So I would say that my footprint is probably in the thousands, but the people that I have actually got an email address for is in the hundreds. Wow. And that's fine because my business model is not about quantity, it's about quality. So I only want to spend time with people who I think there is a good connection with, who I think are going to take on board what I've got to say. So I'm quite happy, for example, having a conversation with somebody and then being a bit watery about whether or not they want to work with me. Fine. I'm not going to follow up. I'm not going to chase. I'm not going to hassle. I might not even send an email saying, nice to talk to you today. Because if they wanted to work with me, they want to work with me. And that's, worked for me so far.
Love it. Okay. Sorry. That's incredible. Like, the kind of niche aspect. And I think, the fact you've been able to build, create courses to build this lifestyle where you can pick and choose when you want, is pretty amazing. One thing I'm curious about, kind of going into the weeds, if someone wants to launch an online course, I'm curious around your opinions on price point. We spoke about it earlier, but there's obviously free products. There's, low ticket, $47. There's high ticket, $7,000 done with you programs. How do you think about price point for someone launching their first course?
So I think before I answer that, I'm going to answer a pre-question that you haven't asked, but it's important to make the point about, is that a lot of people approach online courses assuming that there is going to be a best something for any aspect. There's going to be a best price, a best strategy, a best platform, a best way of filming, a best whatever. And there is no such thing as the best anything. There's only what's right for you right now, right? So The reason that I say that is because I have used all the different types of platforms, not every single one of them, but the different types. And I've used all of them at different times in my business because that's what suited my business at the time. I have also had low ticket, high ticket, and everything in between at different times because that's what suited my business at the time. So I would say to people, if you are listening to coaches that are saying, forget low ticket, high ticket is the strategy, or vice versa, or whatever it might be, both of them are wrong because it's about what's right for you at the moment. And the best way of doing that is listening to your audience, create something small to begin with while you're learning the process of creating online courses, because you don't want to get lost in the weeds of creating a big all singing or dancing signature course that you never finish. Create something small, make sure it's highly targeted to the people you know are looking for that solution, test the water, and then keep testing from there. So then try high ticket, try low, try free, try whatever you can, but don't sort of flip-flop between things if something doesn't work immediately. So one thing I heard many, many years ago, which actually had me worried initially, because it was somebody talking about entrepreneurs and saying, you aren't a true entrepreneur unless you've failed loads. And I was listening to this going, oh, crap, I haven't failed at anything. What's going on? Now, this is not to say that I hadn't failed. It's just my mindset was thinking about these things in a different way. I was thinking about, well, I haven't failed at anything. I've just tried stuff that didn't work. And that's the difference. It's you will try a load of stuff that doesn't work. Doesn't mean it won't work forever. It just means it's not the right thing for you right now.
So what you said about launching a kind of like a quick, short front end offer early and then going down the line was super interesting. Let's kind of like dive into that more. If someone's launching a product, and again, I know that there's no right answer, but assuming that they want to solve that kind of problem quickly, that first product you spoke about, can you give some examples of those kind of quick, small products that you've launched and how you think about them?
Yeah, so I think you're looking at something that, in terms of length, is anything between sort of 3/4 of an hour to an hour and a half. Is typically a small length course. One point that people consistently trip over is that they associate length and price, and the price of your course has nothing to do with the length of your course. The price is about the level of transformation that you deliver. But typically, a shorter course is going to have a lower level of transformation, typically, but not exclusively. Okay, so that's the first point there. And what I would say is, again, it's going to be a little bit dependent on the person and where they are with their target audience. If they have an established audience who are used to hearing from them and buying from them in all other ways except for online courses, then they can probably afford to push the boat out a little bit more and have something that is a little bigger, a little longer, a little more transformative, particularly if they've got a willing audience who can beta test for them and help them to sort of, flesh it out and make it something really amazing. But there's also nothing wrong with thinking strategically about having different levels. So you might want to create something that answers a specific solution and in the process of creating that, you identify what the next follow-on course could be, which could either be the advanced version of what you've just done, or it could be the next logical step for them to learn about. So the first one answers a problem on its own, and it can be standalone, but it's an ideal lead-in then to the next one.
And I'm curious, if someone doesn't have an audience and they've built this or in the process of building this kind of small, early, low-ticket course, how do they get customers?
Yeah, how do they build it? So it's all about lead magnets, right? And you can use anything you like as a lead magnet, but typically it's going to be something that answers one of those low-level questions, those sort of easy to answer, low transformation value questions, which could be just 10 steps to do something, a PDF download, that kind of thing. It could be a mini course. More typically, certainly the people that I work with will tend to put on things like webinars. So a free or a low-price webinar, get people in, you get their email address, hey presto, you've got an audience, right? Then what you do with them after that is up to you, and there are all sorts of strategies that people can follow for that. But a good rule of thumb is sort of the 8-to-2 or 4-to-1, which is deliver 4 pieces of value and then one sell. So what you wouldn't do is get people in and then try and sell them something straight away. You've got to build that connection.
how do people drive traffic to that lead magnet once it's created to build that email list?
So again, think about where your target audience hangs out. So are they Facebookers? Are they LinkedIn people? Are they TikTok? Are they Insta? Where are they? Where can you get hold of them? It might even be in person for some people. For some of my clients, it is. And that's absolutely fine, but you've got to understand where they are, because otherwise you've got to go through the whole education piece of bringing them over to where you are. So if you've got any qualms at all about any of the online platforms and your audience hang out on one that you don't know very well, tough, really. You've got to go there and you've got to embrace it. Totally. And then just start contributing to the conversation. Start getting people to know your name. And then when the time is right, when it's appropriate, and as long as it's within the rules of the environment that you're in, you can offer your freebie. But don't just go straight in there and go, hey, I've got this thing, who wants it? Because nobody knows you. And trust me, they're going to be going, well, who the hell are you and why should I? You know, people value their email addresses a lot more these days than they used to.
And when you're thinking of content ideas, right? So let's say it's, my audience is on TikTok, so I need to figure out TikTok. Fingers crossed, it probably is TikTok, to be honest, and I need to. But anyway, one platform at a time for me. So, TikTok or even like Reddit or Facebook groups. I understand kind of you're speaking into comment sections, but if you're actually creating content, how do you come up with ideas for content? How do you approach content that gets people in and gets people to your lead magnet?
So I think there are a couple of ways to do that. One of them is to simply just do a bit of a brain dump, and whether it's a piece of paper and a pen, whether it's a flip chart and post-it notes, or an online document, or whatever it might be, you can just brain dump all the things that have been asked of you. So what questions have people asked me when I've been working with them? What have they said to me that are questions that they've had, no matter how small or easy to answer or how big and audacious these things are? Write all of those down. The next thing to do is to go where your audience is and hang out and just look at the conversations. So it could just be sort of, a bit of lurking in a couple of Facebook groups or whatever it is. Just see what sort of questions people are coming up with. Those are all really good. You've got Google Trends, so you can look at trends around your particular subject matter and see what sort of questions people are asking. You can divide that by country as well, and all those sorts of things. And then, what you can also do is start putting out some content on social media that answers some of those questions and see which ones are the most popular. So, it is a lengthy process for sure. There's no overnight route to success to building an audience, because you've got to have the audience, but they've got to know, like, and trust you before they'll even think about spending money with you. So, you've got to build it up, and you've got to create your credibility. And part of creating your credibility is understanding the language that your audience is using. So the example that I always give with this is that I work a lot with trainers, professional corporate trainers who go into businesses and offer training, right? You could call a trainer a teacher. You could also call a trainer a tutor. But if I was to put out some content that consistently referred to tutors, my target audience would kind of go, huh? I get it, but you're not really talking to me because I'm using the wrong language, right? Whereas if I talk about trainers, then they know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's understanding
totally,
that.
And even from like a copywriting perspective, I can attest to that, where it's like there's these industries or different niches where people use different words. Like, like agents call themselves realtors, VCs use all these kind of complex terminology. And it's like, even from a copywriting and marketing or ad perspective, it's like going in and seeing exactly how they talk and the words they use. Because if you miss that, they're going to be like, oh, this guy doesn't understand me. And like you said, there's no trust credibility. So you've built multiple courses in less than 24 hours, right? So for someone who's been sitting on an idea for 6 months, you know the exact kind of person I'm talking about, who has it in a Word doc and they haven't filmed it, they haven't got it, and it's just sitting there on a shelf, right? How can someone get a course live as quickly as possible?
Okay, so the first thing they need to do is go back and check their assumptions about what they're creating. The second thing that I would urge them to do is to Think about all the possible things that they could put in that course, and then they need to do what's called EDPO it. They need to block it out into essential, desirable, possible, and overkill. And they need to be really, really honest with themselves about what are the essential bits of information that I need to have in my course to answer the problem that I'm solving. What are the desirable bits? What are the possible bits? What are the overkill bits? Because the biggest problem that people have is that they worry they're not including too much, they aren't including enough value in their course. So they try and cram more in.
And ends up becoming 6 topics. We get that.
Totally. And, it's much better to have a short course that answers one specific question really well than it is to have a very vague, long course that answers everything. Lots of possible questions.
Exactly. Totally. Okay. Let's keep going through the sequence. So test your assumptions. Sorry. I was so involved in it, I forgot it. It was like a movie. It was, remind me again, test your assumptions.
So test your assumptions. Yeah. Then, assuming you have made the right assumptions still, write down absolutely everything that you can think of that could be included. Then block it out into those 4 areas. So you end up with your essential list. So you're looking essentially for your minimum viable product, right? Cool. So what's the minimum amount of information that needs to be in this course in order to answer the question? Usually by this point, you'd have come up with a working title. Cool. A great way to do this is how to what? What is your course about? How to what? Okay. And that keeps you focused on what your scope is. Once you've done that, then you can start blocking out your individual sections and lessons. It might be that your information has a natural step. So you have to do step 1, then step 2, then step 3. Or it could be that you choose the order in which you deliver the information. You have a choice point here. Some hosting platforms will allow you to drip your information out in a specific order. Or you might make everything available and people can jump around and skip around, which they will, in whichever order takes their fancy. And that's fine. There are pros and cons to both of those, but you need to decide what makes logical sense for you in terms of what you're delivering and when. I would strongly, strongly, strongly advise anybody to write down some learning objectives for each of their lessons. This sounds jargony. It sounds dull. It sounds far too boring, but I promise you it keeps you focused on what you're talking about in each of the lessons. So when it comes to filming, you know precisely what you're covering in that video and your brain's not going, oh, what about this? Just talk about this thing really quickly. Because then you end up talking on camera for 20 minutes and ain't nobody going to listen to that. So,
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm sure there's more steps. Let's backtrack. So you're saying, talking about, what I'll call offer building, but basically, what are we including in the course? Are we just launching videos, or are we adding in extra products? Are we adding in bonus templates, scripts? Kind of, how do you think about crafting the offer?
So you don't have to, is the first thing to say. And again, what we're trying to do is strip out anything that becomes a blocker for people actually getting it done and getting it finished and getting it out there. Okay, so you absolutely don't have to offer downloads or bonuses or anything like that. However, some things are really easy to include. So, for example, a lot of hosting platforms will allow you to include a certificate of completion, right? If it's just a question of toggling the box that's on for that, do it, because that in itself is something people that like certificates love certificates. People that aren't fussed by them aren't fussed by them, right? So if you've got the opportunity, just toggle it on, easy, job's a good one. The other thing that you can think about is if you have created your course, your lessons through using slides. So maybe you're doing audio over, you might be on camera as well at the same time, doesn't really matter. But if you've got slides, you could have those slides available as a download. Easy, extra perceived value for very little extra effort. You might want to pay somebody on Fiverr or people per hour or whatever it might be to turn those slides into a workbook or worksheets or something like that. Again, an easy way to add extra value. You've got swipe files, cheat sheets, templates, all these things that you can create for people. You can do calculator tools on a spreadsheet. You can go as far as having an app if you want to, but don't stop producing your course because you're waiting to get all these other things done. You don't have to do any of it.
It should be an addition to the course, not a completely separate thing. All right.
Yeah, it should be complementary.
So let's keep going through this kind of 12-hour course building process, less, probably like 8. So we have all the content written out. We've done the learning objectives. How do you take a course outline and film it and get it live as quickly as possible?
So you really want to write out bullet points for each of your lessons, for each of your videos that you want to produce, and you want to decide how you are going to present those videos. So are you going to be on camera, or are you going to be talking over your slides? One thing to note here is that if you're just going to present slides with music, automatically animating through, that is not an online course. That is a glorified ebook, right? So there has to be a human element in there. There has to be a voice, at least.
Nice.
Talking people through stuff. And then what you're also trying to do is not overload people in each lesson. So one thing I often tell newbie course creators is that they want to try and keep each lesson to a maximum of 5 minutes. And actually, probably somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes, which people sort of usually respond to in one of two ways. It's either that's too long or that's too short for them. But if you're a proper subject matter expert, you will find it very, very easy to talk and then tangent from the tangent and then sweep back around. You might eventually get to the point you were making. This is a quick way to a very long and boring online course. So you want to have bullet points, a maximum of 3 for every video, and each bullet point is one concept that you want to get across. And you can just have one bullet point, one concept per lesson. It's much, much better to have lots of very short videos than a couple of very long ones. Yeah. And you just crack on and do, but the really easy way of putting together what you're going to film is to give yourself a template for how you're going to start the lesson, how you're going to move into what you're talking about, and how you're going to end the lesson. And it can be as simple as every lesson starts with, welcome to this lesson about X. In this lesson, I'm going to tell you Y, Z. So let's start with Y, talk about Y. Here's Z, talk about Z. So in this lesson, I've talked about Y and Z. In the next lesson, I'm going to talk about A, B, C. See you there.
Yeah.
Simple as.
Yeah. Keeps them cool. And then in terms of getting the visual aids, how should people kind of film it? And then what's the best platform to upload? I know there's no best, but what do you do?
Hey, learning
exactly. See, you are a good teacher. I feel like I should be paying you for this.
All right. So there are a number of options. You can absolutely film on Zoom if you want to. Just be a little bit careful, because Zoom is something that can be quite, bandwidth hungry and also megabyte hungry as well. You can choose to film on something that one of the free or low cost platforms. My best advice would be to use the software that you're also going to be editing your film on, because it just saves hassle in the long run. Yes, I know you can film for free and then edit in YouTube and do what, fine. If you are confident on camera and you know you're not going to make any mistakes and all you need to do is top and tail, absolutely you can do that. But if you're new to this stuff, you're going to want to do a little bit more editing than that. Yeah. So be prepared to invest. You don't have to invest a lot. So you can look at something like Loom, or you can look at something like ScreenPal. Used to be called Screencast-O-Matic. And then they changed the name like literally a month after I'd written my book and published it. But we won't go into that, which was fun. But both of those really low cost options for you to be able to both record what you're doing, and you can record your webcam and your screen at the same time, and you can edit in those programs. Personally, I use Camtasia. I'm a PC girl. If you use a Mac, then you probably want to look at something like ScreenFlow. These are sort of mid-budget options. If you have access already to something whizzy like Adobe Premiere Pro, then great, but don't go out and buy it specifically because it's quite advanced from an editing point of view for people to use. But you can get some really good stuff done with ScreenPal or with Loom for sure. Cool. And just, if you need to, you can film on your smartphone. But again, it's probably going to be more hassle than it's worth. So it's worth thinking about investing in a separate microphone, separate webcam, and recording and editing software for sure.
Perfect. All right. Well, we've got to move towards wrapping up, unfortunately. Unless you're willing to stay on. I'm learning a ton. I'm having fun. So let me know how you got me time. I would love to hear, before you go, obviously we'll we'll do the whole, kind of where can people find you thing. But I'm curious about some of the craziest courses that you've worked on, right? So you've helped probably thousands of people. You said launch online courses. What are some of the biggest kind of craziest stories that you've been a part of that you're allowed to share?
So, I mean, I've worked with a lovely lady who did walking tours, but she was very interested in specific aspects of architecture, and actually ended up producing an online course all about gargoyles. Those concrete creatures that sit on the corner of building. And it was all about those and the history of those. And I just thought, I had no idea.
Wow.
That's just bonkers. So that was really kind of wow. Okay. And it sold, because she knew her target audience, and the people that were following her were really interested in this sort of stuff. It's like, oh, okay. The one I was interested in that she produced was the history of cocktails. That was a good one. I think, learning all about how to make cocktails and that kind of thing was quite different. But yeah, same person, same audience. It's really bizarre. Not somebody that I worked with, but I know there is a lady somewhere in America who has produced a course on painting door hangers. And you think, what? Wow. Don't you just get the door hanger and you paint it? I mean, how is there an online course in there? But it's doing really well, and she has a whole business about it. So that's really interesting. Yes. So I would say, those two examples alone just demonstrate there can be an audience for anything, but just, go out and find them and listen to them and listen to what problems they need solving,
Totally. I love it. So is there anything else, any thing that you want to share? You have a wealth of knowledge around online courses. I assume this audience is going to either have an existing course or want to be launching an online course. In your wisdom, is there anything that you want to give, in terms of value to them? Yeah.
Okay, so there are two mantras. I've actually created, and you can find it in the book. There are two mantras that I have created, which is the online course taker's mantra and the online course maker's mantra. But there are two lines, one in each of those, that I think are really, really important to remember. One will be familiar for people, I'm sure, which is done is better than perfect. And I think specifically, especially when you're creating something for the first time, there is a tendency to let the little internal gremlins tell you that something isn't good enough. And I'm absolutely here to tell you that perfection does not exist. I don't produce perfect online courses, for sure. I don't, because there's no such thing apart from anything else. But you can't sell something unless it's finished, right? So done is better than perfect. Otherwise, it's just a gigantic hobby that you've wasted time and money on if you're not getting any money back in from it, right? So that's the first one. The second one is that only fossils are set in stone. And what this says is you can change your mind at any point about any of it. So you might choose a hosting platform. You can change your mind about a hosting platform. You might choose recording software. You can change your mind. You might choose your course topic. You can change your mind, although I wouldn't do it until after you've at least tried it. You can change your mind about any aspect of online course creation. The reason that this is important to remember is that there will be lots of choice points as you go. So we talked about high ticket versus low ticket. We've talked about hosting platforms. We've talked about recording options. We've talked about investing. Do I get this webcam or that microphone or whatever it might be? There will be lots of choice points. You can change your mind at any time. All right. That. The important thing is to pick one and move.
Yep. Make a decision and go. Nice. I love that. Well,
totally.
Well, speaking of making a decision, if someone wants to make the decision to check you out, work with you, buy one of your 47 amazing products.
I see what you
did. What I did there. Yeah, see, I'm getting the hang of it. I'm learning. I need to figure out, how to stop stuttering, but you have a course for that. So maybe we can, you're going to send me the link to that. But yeah, where can people find you? What are you working on right now?
Sure. Absolutely. All right. So they're specifically for online courses. They can find me on thegetthatgang.com is the access point to everything. But for online courses, it's getthatcourseonline.com. The book is entitled the same thing, Get That Course Online. Is that backwards on your
No,
screen? It's
no,
backwards
no.
on
It's
mine.
perfect. It's perfect.
Good. That's
Yeah,
right
yeah,
then.
we got you.
So this is available on Amazon right now on paperback and audio. I'm literally in the process of finishing the final edits for the online course that you can also buy on this. All of the information is on getthatcourseonline.com. You can find me on Facebook and also on LinkedIn. Those are the two platforms that I tend to be on the most. Yeah, just get in touch and we can take it from there.
Nice. Well, Ginette, thank you so much for coming. I learned a ton. I wish we could talk for longer. Maybe we can talk again. Yeah, really, really
Absolutely. We'll do
appreciate
another
it. That
one.
was great.